Some stories stay with you forever. Here's one of them. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Leave a comment and let us know where you're watching from. The city of São Paulo was an unforgiving beast, especially for a man like Roberto Mendonça, a millionaire whose life was a blur of boardrooms and late nights. He was used to arriving home well after 9, a time when his house was silent, his family already asleep. But today was different. A business meeting had ended early, and on a whim, he decided to head straight for his mansion in the upscale Jardins neighborhood. The silence that usually greeted him was broken by the quiet murmur of voices as he opened the front door. He froze in the doorway, unable to comprehend the scene unfolding in his living room. There was Beatrice, their 28-year-old housekeeper, on her knees, scrubbing the floor with a wet rag. But that wasn't what had him paralyzed. It was his 4-year-old son, Peter, standing beside her on tiny purple crutches, a small dish towel in his hand, clumsily trying to help her clean up. "Aunt Bee," the little boy with blonde hair said, his arms straining to reach a spot. "I can get this part." "Hold on, little Peter. You've already helped me so much today. Why don't you sit on the sofa while I finish?" Beatrice replied in a gentle voice Roberto had never heard before. But Peter insisted. "I want to help. You always say we're a team." Roberto stood there, unnoticed, observing the exchange. There was something in the air, a connection he couldn't name. He hadn't seen Peter smile like this in a very long time. Beatrice eventually relented, accepting his help for just a moment. That's when Peter spotted his father at the door. His face lit up, a mix of surprise and apprehension in his bright blue eyes. "Dad, you're home early," he exclaimed, nearly losing his balance as he tried to turn. Beatrice jumped up, dropping the rag. She wiped her hands on her apron and looked down, her voice trembling. "Good. Evening, Mr. Mendonça. I didn't know you were... I was just finishing up." Roberto was still reeling. He looked from his son, who still held the small towel, to Beatrice, who looked like she wanted to disappear. "Peter, what are you doing?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "I'm helping Aunt Bee, Dad. Look at this." Proudly, Peter took a few wobbly steps toward his father. "I managed to stand on my own for almost 5 minutes today." Roberto's eyes widened, turning to Beatrice for an explanation. She was still looking down, nervously twisting her hands. 5 minutes, he repeated, stunned. "Aunt Bee teaches me exercises every day," Peter explained with unbridled enthusiasm. "She says that if I practice hard, one day I'll be able to run like the other kids." A heavy silence fell over the room. Roberto felt a strange mix of emotions, gratitude, confusion, and a flicker of anger. "Exercises?" he questioned again. Beatrice finally looked up, her brown eyes filled with fear. "Mr. Mendonça, I was just playing with little Peter. I didn't mean any harm. If you want, I can—" "No, Aunt Bea," Peter interrupted, quickly moving to stand between the two adults. "Dad, Aunt Bea is the best. She doesn't give up on me when I cry because it hurts. She says I'm strong, like a warrior." Roberto felt a pang in his chest. When was the last time he'd seen his son so alive? When was the last time he had talked to him for more than 5 minutes? "Peter, go to your room. I need to talk." "Into Beatrice," Roberto said, trying to sound firm but gentle. "But Dad—" "Now, Peter." The boy glanced at Beatrice, who gave him an encouraging smile, signaling that everything would be okay. He hobbled away on his crutches, but before he disappeared up the stairs, he yelled, "Aunt Bea is the best person in the world!" Roberto and Beatrice were alone. He took a step closer, noticing for the first time the damp patches on her blue pants and her red hands from scrubbing the floor. "How long has this been going on?" he asked. "The exercises, sir. How long have you been doing exercises with Peter?" She hesitated. "Since I started working here, sir. It's been about 6 months, but I promise I've never neglected my work because of it. I do the exercises with him during my lunch break or after I finish everything." You don't get paid extra for this, Roberto observed. No, sir, and I'm not asking for anything. I just like playing with him. He's a special child. Special how? The question surprised her. What do you mean, sir? He repeated. You said he's special. How? Beatrice smiled for the first time since he had arrived. He's determined, sir. Even when the exercises are tough and he wants to cry, he doesn't give up. And he has a huge heart. He always worries if I'm tired or sad. He's a very loving child. Roberto felt that pang in his chest again. When was the last time he had taken the time to notice these things about his own son? And the exercises. How do you know what to do? He continued. Beatrice looked down again. I have experience with this, sir. What kind of experience? There was a long pause as she seemed to wrestle with what to say. My younger brother, John, was born with leg problems. I spent my whole childhood taking him to physical therapy, learning exercises, and helping him to walk. When I saw Peter, I just couldn't stand by and watch him be sad. Sad, sir. With all due respect, little Peter is very lonely. Mrs. Christina is always busy with her friends, and you, well, you work too much. So you thought perhaps you could help. Roberto finished for her. Yes, sir, but if you don't want me to do this, I'll stop immediately. What did you want, Beatrice? She looked up, and for the first time, Roberto saw a fierce determination in her eyes. I wanted him to smile more, sir. A child should smile every day. Roberto was silent for a moment, thinking about how many times he had seen Peter smile in recent weeks. He couldn't remember a single one. Where is Christina? He asked. She went out to dinner with her friends. She said she'd be back late. And you stayed here with Peter? Yes, sir. He had dinner, took a bath, we did the exercises, and I was just finishing up the cleaning because he spilled juice in the living room. He wanted to help me clean. Roberto looked around, noticing for the first time how immaculate everything was. The furniture gleamed, there wasn't a speck of dust, and even the plants seemed more alive. Beatrice, can I ask you a personal question? Of course, sir. Why do you work as a housekeeper? You clearly have knowledge of physical therapy. You're good with children. You're dedicated. Why not work in the health field? The question caught her by surprise. What do you mean, sir? You have all this experience and yet... Beatrice gave a sad smile. Because I don't have a degree, sir. I learned everything taking care of my brother. But that doesn't count for anything official, and I need to work to support my family. Your family? My mother and my brother John. He's 16 now. He studies in the morning and works at a grocery store in the afternoon. My mother cleans offices at night. We get by however we can. Roberto felt a strange mix of admiration and shame. Here was a young woman working hard to support her family and still finding the time and energy to care for his son with love and dedication. And you never thought of studying, getting a physical therapy degree? Beatrice laughed, but there was no joy in the sound. With what money, sir? With what time? I leave the house at 6 a.m., take 2 buses to get here by 7:30, work until 6 p.m., take 2 buses back, get home at 8, help my brother with his homework, make dinner. And by the time I go to sleep, it's almost midnight. On weekends, I clean other houses for extra money. Roberto was quiet, absorbing this information. He had no idea about her life outside of the 8 hours she spent in his home. Beatrice, can I see the exercises you do with Peter now? Sir, he's already in his pajamas, sir, and we usually do the exercises in the morning before his online classes. In the morning? Yes, sir. I get here at 7:30, prepare Peter's breakfast. And while you're still sleeping, we do an exercise session in the garden. Afterward, he takes a bath, eats, and gets ready for his classes. Roberto realized he knew nothing about his own son's routine. He left the house at 7 a.m. and always came back after 9 p.m. On weekends, he usually stayed in his home office or went out for business meetings. And he likes these exercises. He loves them, sir. At first it was difficult because he was in pain. But now he asked to do them himself. Yesterday he managed to stand without his crutches for almost 3 consecutive minutes. 3 minutes? Roberto's eyes widened. But the physical therapist said that would still take months to happen. Beatrice blushed. Perhaps Peter is more motivated now, sir. He wants to impress me. And he wants to impress you, too. Impress me? He always talks about you, Mr. Mendonça. He says that when he can walk properly, he'll be able to work with you when he grows up. He says he wants to be just like his dad. Roberto felt his eyes well up. He had no idea Peter thought of him that way. Just then they heard footsteps on the stairs. It was Peter, slowly making his way down on his crutches. "Dad, you're still here?" he said, relieved. "Peter, you should be sleeping," Roberto said, but without a hint of reprimand. "I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking, you're not going to send Aunt Bea away, are you?" The question took Roberto by surprise. "Why would you think I'd send her away?" "Because you were so serious when you told me to go upstairs, and Mom always gets mad when the housekeepers do things she didn't tell them to do." Roberto looked at Beatrice, who had once again lowered her head. "Peter, come here," he said, kneeling down. To his son's level, the boy approached, leaning on his crutches. "Do you like Beatrice?" "Very much. She's my best friend." "Why is she your best friend?" Peter thought for a moment. "Because she plays with me. She listens when I talk, and she's never in a hurry when I'm slow at doing things, and she believes I'll be able to walk just like the other kids." "And me? Am I your friend too?" Roberto asked, his heart aching. Peter hesitated, and Roberto saw a sadness on his son's face that cut him like a knife. "You're my dad, not my friend," Peter said softly. "Dads are important, but friends are the people who stay with us." Roberto felt like he had been punched in the stomach. He looked at Beatrice, who was also visibly moved. "Peter, I would really like to be your friend too. Would you teach me how?" Peter's eyes lit up. "Really, Dad?" "Very really. So you have to play with me, listen to my stories, and come watch my exercises with Aunt Bea." Roberto smiled, feeling an emotion he hadn't experienced in years. "It's a deal. Tomorrow morning, I want to see those exercises." "Really?" Peter jumped with joy, nearly losing his balance. "Aunt Bea, did you hear? Dad is going to watch our exercises." Beatrice smiled, but Roberto noticed a flicker of worry in her eyes. "Mr. Mendonça, you're not usually home in the morning." "Tomorrow I will be," Roberto said firmly. "In fact, I think I need to reconsider some of my priorities." Peter hugged his father, still on his crutches. "Dad, now I have 2 best friends, you and Aunt Bea." Roberto embraced his son, feeling a love so strong it almost choked him. How had he let this wonderful child slip away from his life? "Now go to sleep, champ. Tomorrow's going to be a special day." After Peter went upstairs, Roberto turned to Beatrice. "Thank you," he said simply. "For what, sir?" "For taking care of my son when I didn't know how to do it myself." Beatrice smiled shyly. "He's a special child, sir. Anyone would fall in love with him. But not just anyone would dedicate their free time to helping him. Not just anyone would have the patience and the knowledge that you have." "Mr. Mendonça, can I ask you a question?" "Of course." "Are you really going to be here tomorrow morning?" Roberto paused. He had 3 meetings scheduled before 9 a.m. He had a video conference with investors in the United States at 8 a.m. He had a report to finish by noon. "Yes," he said, surprising himself. "I will be here." That night, Roberto went up to his room, thinking about the conversation. Christina had not yet arrived. He took the opportunity to go into Peter's room. The boy was sleeping, but his crutches were carefully propped up on the bedside table, ready for the next day. Roberto sat on the edge of the bed and watched his son. How had this child grown so much without him noticing? When had Peter become this brave and determined person? He picked up his phone and cancelled all 3 of his morning meetings. Then he wrote an email explaining that the video conference would have to be rescheduled. For the first time in his career, Roberto was putting family first. When Christina got home, around 11 p.m., Roberto was waiting for her in the living room. "You're home early today," she said, kicking off her shoes. "Something happened, Christina. We need to talk." "About what?" She sat on the sofa beside him. "About Peter, about our family, about what's happening in this house." Christina sighed. "Roberto, if this is about more doctors for Peter, I already told you. It's not about doctors, it's about Beatrice, the housekeeper. What about her? Did you know she does physical therapy exercises with Peter every day?" Christina looked away. "I did. And why didn't you tell me?" "Because you'd get worried about liability, lawsuits, all that stuff you're always worried about." "Christina, she's helping our son walk better." "I know that, Roberto," Christina burst out. "Do you think I'm blind? Do you think I don't see Peter is happier? Do you think I don't notice his progress? Then why didn't you tell me?" Christina stood up and began pacing. "Because you're never here, Roberto. Because when you are, you want to know if Peter took his medicine, if he went to physical therapy, if he did his schoolwork. You never ask if he laughed today, if he had fun, if he was happy." Roberto was silent, absorbing his wife's words. "And Beatrice?" Christina continued. "Beatrice makes Peter smile. She makes him believe he can achieve anything. So I let her continue, because my son needs this. Why did you never tell me you felt this way?" Christina stopped pacing and looked at her husband. "Roberto, when was the last time we talked about anything other than work or Peter's doctors?" Roberto tried to remember, but he couldn't. "I don't remember." "Me neither. And do you know why? Because you're not here. Physically you might be, but mentally you're always at the office, on the phone, on the computer. I've been raising Peter on my own, Roberto, and now Beatrice is helping me do it." Roberto felt guilt spread through his chest. I didn't know you felt this way." "Because you never asked." They were silent for a few minutes. Roberto was processing everything that had happened that day. First, the revelation about Beatrice and Peter. Now, the revelation about his own neglect as a father and husband. "Christina, I want to change this." "Change what?" "Everything. I want to be present in Peter's life, in your life. I want us to be a real family." Christina looked at him skeptically. "Roberto, you've said that before. Remember when Peter was born? When he was diagnosed? You always say you're going to change, but work always comes first. This time it's different." "Why?" "Because today I saw my son for the first time. I really saw him. And I realized that if I don't do something now, I'm going to lose the most important years of his life." Christina sighed. "Roberto, I want to believe you, but I need actions, not words." "Then come see tomorrow morning. I'm going to watch the exercises Beatrice does with Peter." "You cancelled your meetings." "I did." Christina's eyes widened. In 15 years of marriage, she had never seen Roberto cancel meetings for family reasons. "Maybe this time it really is different," she murmured. "It will be. I promise." The next morning, Roberto woke up at 6:30 a.m. He showered, dressed in casual clothes, something he rarely did on a weekday, and went down to the kitchen. Beatrice was already there, preparing breakfast. "Good morning, Beatrice," he said, surprising her. "Good morning, Mr. Mendonça. You're up early today." "I am. Where's Peter?" "Still sleeping, sir. He usually wakes up at 7:30. "And what time do you do the exercises?" "At 8 a.m., sir, after he has breakfast." Roberto looked at the clock. 7:15. "Can I help with anything?" Beatrice looked surprised. "Sir, the breakfast. Can I help you prepare it?" "Oh, of course, sir. Peter likes on Mondays." "Pancakes? I didn't know that." Beatrice smiled. "He says he needs extra energy to start the week with the exercises." Roberto watched her prepare the pancake batter, noticing the care with which she did everything. She wasn't just preparing food, she was preparing something special for Peter. "Beatrice, Can I ask you a question? Of course, sir. Why do you care so much about Peter? Beatrice stopped stirring the batter and thought for a moment. Mr. Mendonça, when I was a child, I saw my brother John being rejected by other children because of his difficulties. I saw the sadness in his eyes when he wanted to play but couldn't keep up with the others. When I look at Peter, I see the same look John had when he was little. And what did you do for your brother? I was his best friend. I invented games he could play. I encouraged him to try new things. I celebrated every small victory of his as if it were the greatest achievement in the world, and it worked. Beatrice smiled, and Roberto saw pride in her eyes. It worked. Today, John is in his second year of high school. He works, he helps support the family, and he's one of the most determined people I know. He still has limitations, but he never lets that stop him from living. And you want the same thing for Peter? I want him to be happy, Mr. Mendonça. I want him to believe he can achieve anything, because with the privileged family he has, with all the love and support you can give, he can go much further than my brother ever dreamed of. Roberto once again felt that mix of admiration and shame. Beatrice was right. Peter had every advantage in the world, yet he was sad and lonely because he didn't have what mattered most, the attention and love of his parents. Just then, Peter appeared in the kitchen, still in his pajamas and on his crutches. "Dad!" he shouted, surprised. "You didn't go to work." "Good morning, champ. Today I'm staying here to watch your exercises, remember?" Peter smiled from ear to ear. "Really? You're going to see how strong I am?" "I am, but first, let's have breakfast. Beatrice made special pancakes for you." During breakfast, Roberto watched the interaction between Peter and Beatrice. They talked like old friends, laughing at inside jokes, planning the day's exercises. Peter was radiant, talking non-stop about things he wanted to show his father. "Dad, did you know I can already go up 3 steps without my crutches?" 3 steps? That's incredible. And I know how to do stretches like a grown-up. Aunt Bee taught me. She says it's important to prepare your muscles before exercising. Roberto looked at Beatrice, impressed. She really knew what she was doing. At 8 sharp, they went out to the garden. Christina had also come downstairs and was watching from the kitchen window. Roberto noticed that she seemed curious to see how he would react to the exercises. "Hey, little Peter," Beatrice said, laying out a mat. "On the grass. Shall we start with the stretches?" "Yes, Dad. Sit here next to me to watch." Roberto sat on the grass, something he hadn't done in years. Peter lay down on the mat and began doing stretching movements that surprised Roberto with their precision and seriousness. "Very good, little Peter. Now let's work on your balance," Beatrice said. She helped Peter stand up and place the crutches beside him. "Remember what we practiced? You're going to try to stand without crutches for 30 seconds. If you can do it tomorrow, we'll try for 45. Can I try a whole minute? Let's take it easy. 30 seconds is already very good." Peter let go of his crutches and stood on his own. Roberto held his breath. The boy was shaking a little, clearly straining to keep his balance, but he was succeeding. 15 seconds, Beatrice counted. "You're doing so well." "Dad, are you watching?" Peter asked, not taking his eyes off a fixed point in front of him. "I'm watching, son. You're amazing." 25 seconds, Beatrice continued. "Almost there. 30, Peter yelled, and at that moment he lost his balance and began to fall. Beatrice quickly grabbed him, preventing a tumble. I did it, 30 seconds. Peter was radiant. Roberto was emotional. He stood up and went to hug his son. "Peter, that was fantastic. I'm so proud of you." "Now, do you understand why I love doing exercises with Aunt B.A.? "I understand perfectly." They continued with the exercises for another 30 minutes. Beatrice guided Peter through different activities, walking with crutches, strengthening his legs, and practicing his balance. Roberto was impressed with her knowledge and her endless patience. When they finished, Peter was tired, but happy. "Aunt Bear, Can I try 45 seconds without crutches tomorrow? Of course, but now let's take a bath and get ready for your online classes. Dad, are you going to be here tomorrow too? Roberto looked at Beatrice and then at his son. Yes, I am. In fact, I was thinking, what if I stay here every morning to watch your exercises? Peter hugged his father so tightly that he almost knocked him over. Really? Every day? Every day. That afternoon, after Peter was in his online classes, Roberto called Beatrice into his office for a private conversation. Beatrice, I want to make you a proposal. What kind of proposal, sir? I want you to become Peter's official therapeutic companion. Beatrice's eyes widened. You have knowledge of physical therapy. You have a special connection with my son, and he trusts you completely. I'd like to formalize this. But, sir, I don't have a degree. We'll solve that. Would you like to take a physical therapy course? Beatrice was silent for a long moment. Mr. Mendonça, that would be a dream, but I can't afford. What if I paid for the course? I would pay for your studies, the books, the transportation, and you would continue to receive your regular salary. In fact, I would increase your salary since your responsibilities would be greater. Beatrice began to cry. Mr. Mendonça, I don't know what to say. Say yes. Peter needs you, and you deserve to have the opportunity to study what you love. But what about the housework? The other tasks? We'll hire another person for the domestic tasks. Your focus would be exclusively on Peter. Beatrice couldn't stop crying. Why are you doing this, sir? Because last night, I realized I almost missed the opportunity to get to know my own son. And this morning I saw that you're giving him something I didn't know how to give, hope and confidence. I want you to continue doing that, but in an official and recognized way. And if I don't pass the course, you will. I'm sure you will. Beatrice wiped her tears and looked at Roberto with determination. Then I accept, Mr. Mendonça. I'll study very hard, and I'll do the best job I can with little Peter. I know you will. In the days that followed, the routine of the house changed completely. Roberto began leaving the house later, participating in Peter's morning exercises. He cancelled several meetings to be present for his son's important moments. Peter was radiant with his father's presence. His progress in the exercises accelerated, motivated by the attention he was receiving. In 1 week, he managed to stand for a full minute without crutches. In 2 weeks, he managed to take 5 consecutive steps without support. Christina watched these changes with a mix of joy and caution. She was happy to see her husband more present, but she was still afraid it was temporary. One morning during the exercises, Peter achieved something no one expected. He let go of his crutches and walked 8 steps to his father. "Dad, I walked by myself," Peter shouted, throwing himself into Roberto's arms. Roberto was crying with emotion. "You did it, champ. You really did it." Beatrice was also crying, proud of Peter's progress. "Aunt Bea, did you see? I walked." "I did, my warrior. You're incredible." Christina had run out of the house when she heard the shouts and arrived just in time to see Peter take a few more steps without support. "My goodness, Peter," she cried, hugging her son. That night, after Peter was asleep, Roberto and Christina talked about the changes that were happening. "Roberto, I need to admit something," Christina said. "What?" "I was thinking of leaving you." Roberto felt his world spin. "What?" "I felt lonely, Roberto. I felt like I was raising Peter by myself while you lived for your work. I couldn't take it anymore. Oh. Now I see a different man. I see the father I always wanted you to be, the husband I married. But I need to know if this will last." Roberto took his wife's hand. "Christina, I almost lost the 2 most important people in my life because of work. That's not going to happen again. I promise." "How can you be sure?" "Because I discovered that nothing is worth more than seeing my son walk toward me, smiling. No business deal, no amount of money is worth that. A few weeks later, Roberto made another discovery about Beatrice. He got home early and found her crying in the garden. "Beatrice, what happened?" "Nothing, Mr. Mendonça. I'm fine." "You're clearly not. What's wrong?" Beatrice hesitated before answering. "It's just... one of Mrs. Christina's friends came here this morning. She wasn't very kind to me." "What do you mean?" "She said I was taking advantage of your kindness, that I was trying to get involved where I wasn't needed. She said a housekeeper should know her place." Roberto felt his anger rise. "Who was it?" "It doesn't matter, sir." "Who was it?" "Mrs. Helen, Mrs. Christina's friend." Roberto knew Helen, a pretentious and prejudiced woman who always made a point of showing her social superiority. "What else did she say?" "She said I was confusing things, that Peter wasn't my son, and that I should stop acting like his mother. She said people like me should know our place." Roberto was fuming with rage. "Beatrice, you know that's not true, don't you?" "I do, sir, but it hurt to hear. And the worst part is that Peter was nearby and heard everything. He got very upset and defended me." "He defended you?" "He told Mrs. Helen that I was the best person in the world and that she couldn't be mean to me. He got very agitated." Roberto smiled despite his anger. "He was right, and I'm going to resolve this. Mr. Mendonça, please don't make a fuss about this. I don't want to cause problems between Mrs. Christina and her friends." "Beatrice, you're not causing any problems. The problem is the lack of education of people who think they're superior to others." That night, Roberto talked to Christina about the incident. "Christina, was Helen here today?" "She was." "Why?" "She was disrespectful to Beatrice." "What do you mean?" Roberto told her what had happened. Christina was visibly irritated. "I didn't know that. If I had, I would have put her out of the house immediately. Peter heard everything and got upset. My goodness, poor Peter. He loves Beatrice. Christina, I don't want that kind of person in our house anymore. If your friends can't treat our staff with respect, they're not welcome here." "I agree completely. I'll talk to Helen tomorrow and make it very clear that this behavior is not acceptable." The next day, something unexpected happened. Roberto was in his office when he received a call from an acquaintance, Marcelo Santos, the owner of a rival company. "Roberto, I heard you have an exceptional housekeeper there." "Why do you want to know, Marcelo?" "Helen mentioned to me that she's very good with special needs children. Coincidentally, my grandson has cerebral palsy, and we're looking for someone qualified to take care of him. I'd like to make her a proposal." Roberto's heart sank. "What kind of proposal?" "Double what you pay her, more benefits, a car at her disposal, full health insurance for her and her family." "What do you think?" "Marcelo, Beatrice is not for sale. Roberto, be reasonable. Everyone has a price, and from what I heard, she's just a housekeeper. Here, she would be an official therapeutic companion. She's already our official therapeutic companion." "Oh, is she? Helen didn't mention that. Well, even so, my proposal still stands. Can you pass me her phone number?" "No, Roberto." "Marcelo, the answer is no. Beatrice is part of our family. If you change your mind, give me a call." Roberto hung up, worried. He knew Marcelo wouldn't give up easily, and he also knew that the offer was truly tempting for someone in Beatrice's financial situation. He decided not to mention the call, but remained alert in the following days. His concern proved justified when 3 days later Beatrice asked to talk to him. "Mr. Mendonça, I received a job offer." Roberto's heart raced. "What kind of offer?" "To work as a therapeutic companion for the Santos family. They offered a lot, more than I earn here." "Do you want to accept?" Beatrice was silent for a long moment. "Mr. Mendonça, I don't know what to do. The money would make a huge difference for my family. My mom could stop working at night. My brother could focus only on his studies, but I can't imagine leaving little Peter. He's become very important to me. And you've become very important to him too." I know, and that's what's making me so conflicted. I have obligations to my family, but I also feel responsible for Peter. Roberto thought carefully before answering. Beatrice, I'm not going to try to influence your decision, but can I ask you a few questions? Of course. Are you happy working here? Very happy. Do you feel like you have opportunities for growth here with the physical therapy course I'm paying for? Yes. And Peter, how do you think he would react if you left? Beatrice sighed. He would be devastated. Just yesterday he was talking about the plans we have for when he can run without crutches. So what is your real doubt? The money, Mr. Mendonça. My family really needs it. Roberto nodded. I understand. How much did they offer? Beatrice said the amount, and Roberto was surprised. It was indeed a significant sum. Beatrice, can I make a counter-offer? What do you mean? I can match the salary they offered, in addition to keeping the benefits we already have, the physical therapy course, health insurance, and I can also include health insurance for your mother and brother. Beatrice's eyes widened. Mr. Mendonça, you don't have to. Yes, I do. Peter needs you, and you deserve to be valued for the exceptional work you do. But this is a lot of money. Beatrice, you saved my marriage and helped me reconnect with my son. What is that worth? Beatrice began to cry. Mr. Mendonça, I don't know what to say. Say you'll stay. I'll stay, of course I'll stay. That afternoon, Peter was playing in the garden when he saw Beatrice tidying up her things. He ran to her, worried. Aunt Bea, are you leaving? No, my love, I'm going to stay here with you forever. Very, very long time. Peter hugged Beatrice tightly. Good, because I still have so many things to learn with you, and when I can run, I'll run to you every day, and I'll be here waiting for my warrior. A few weeks later, something happened that no one expected. Peter was doing his morning exercises when he accomplished something extraordinary. He ran. It wasn't for many feet, but it was a few consecutive steps at a faster speed than walking. Dad! Aunt Bea! I ran! Peter shouted, radiant with joy. Roberto and Beatrice ran to him, emotional. Peter, that was incredible, Roberto said, hugging his son. My warrior has become an athlete, Beatrice said, also hugging him. Now I can play with the other kids just like them. Can, my love. You can do anything you want. That night, Roberto reflected on everything that had happened in the last few months. He had almost lost his family because of his work, but a dedicated housekeeper had saved not only his son, but the entire family dynamic. A few months later, it was Peter's preschool graduation day. It was a special event where the children would demonstrate their skills and talents. Roberto had cancelled all his commitments to be there. Dad, are you sure you'll be able to come? Peter asked on the morning of the graduation. Absolutely sure, champ. I wouldn't miss this for anything in the world. And is Aunt Bea going to be there too? Of course she is. We're your official cheering section. At school, Peter was nervous. He had prepared a special presentation where he would demonstrate how he had overcome his motor difficulties. Aunt Bea, what if I fall in front of everyone? He asked as he got ready. Little Peter, you've fallen many times during our training and you always got up. If you fall today, you'll get up too. But I bet you won't fall. Why are you so sure? Because you're the most determined boy I know, and because you've trained so hard for this moment. When it was Peter's turn to present, he walked to the center of the stage without his crutches. The audience was silent, realizing this was something special. My name is Peter Mendonça, he began in a firm voice. When I was little, I couldn't walk properly. I needed crutches, and I was afraid to try new things. Roberto and Christina were emotional in the audience. Beatrice was next to them, equally moved. But then I met someone very special, Peter continued. Aunt Bea taught me that when we practice and don't give up, we can achieve anything. She taught me to be strong, to be brave, and to believe in myself. Peter then did something that surprised everyone. He ran from one end of the stage to the other without stumbling, without hesitation, with perfect balance. "I want to dedicate this run to 3 people," Peter said, out of breath but smiling. "To my dad, who learned to be my best friend, to my mum, who always took care of me, and to Aunt Bea, who taught me that I can fly if I want to." The audience erupted in applause. Roberto was openly crying, as were Christina and Beatrice. "And now," Peter continued, "I want to show you something I learned. Aunt Bea, come here." Beatrice was surprised, but Peter called her to the stage. "This is Beatrice," Peter said to the audience. "She's the most important person in my life after my parents. She believed in me when even I didn't believe in myself. And I want to tell everyone that she's the best teacher in the world." Peter hugged Beatrice on stage, and the audience rose in a standing ovation. Roberto and Christina also went on stage to hug Peter and Beatrice. "Dad," Peter said, still on stage, "can you tell everyone something?" "What, son?" "That Aunt Bea is not our housekeeper anymore. She's part of our family." Roberto took the microphone. "My son is right," he said in an emotional voice. "Beatrice is not just our employee. She's part of our family. She saved my son, she saved my marriage, and she taught me what really matters in life." The audience applauded again, and Beatrice was crying with emotion. After the presentation, several people from the school approached Roberto and Christina to congratulate Peter and to meet Beatrice. Many parents of children with special needs wanted to know about the methods she used. "You should think about opening a therapy center," one of the mothers suggested. "There are many children who could benefit from Beatrice's work." Roberto looked at Beatrice, who was talking animatedly with other mothers about exercises and motivational techniques. "You know, Christina," he said to his wife, "maybe that's not a bad idea." "What do you mean?" "A therapy center specializing in children, with Beatrice as the coordinator after she graduates. You would invest in that?" "I would." "And do you know why?" "Because I've seen firsthand how her work can transform the life of a child and an entire family." That night at home, Roberto called Beatrice for a conversation. "Beatrice, can I ask you a crazy question?" "Of course, Mr. Mendonça. Would you like to have your own therapy center one day?" Beatrice laughed. "Mr. Mendonça, that's a very big dream for someone like me." "Why do you say that?" "Because opening a therapy center requires a lot of money, a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience. I'm still learning. What if I told you I'm willing to invest in that?" "Dream." Beatrice stopped smiling. "What do you mean?" "I'm thinking of opening a therapy center for children with special needs. A place where every child receives the same kind of attention and care that you gave Peter. And I would like you to be the therapeutic director." "Mr. Me, is this serious?" "Completely serious. Of course, you would have to finish your degree first, maybe do some specializations, but the project can be developed little by little. And little Peter would continue to be your priority. In fact, he could be a kind of ambassador for the center, showing other children that it's possible to overcome difficulty." Beatrice was silent for a long moment. "Mr. Mendonça, if this really happens, it would be the biggest dream of my life coming true. Then let's make it happen." 2 years later, the Hope Children's Therapy Center was being inaugurated. It was a modern, colorful place with state-of-the-art equipment and a team of dedicated professionals. Beatrice, now with a degree in physical therapy and specializations in pediatrics, was the therapeutic director. Peter, now 6 and running normally, was at the inauguration as a special guest. He had become the symbol of the center, inspiring other children with his story of resilience. "Aunt Bea," Peter said, running to Beatrice on the inauguration day, "you did it! You have your own place to help kids." "I did, my warrior. And do you know who inspired me to never give up?" "Who?" "A brave little boy who taught me that when we believe and work hard, dreams come true." Roberto watched the scene with pride. His company now had a new focus. In addition to traditional business, he had created a social responsibility division that supported projects like the therapy center. "Roberto," Christina said, approaching him, "do you regret anything?" "I regret taking so long to understand what really matters, but I don't regret anything we've done since I learned the lesson." "And what was the lesson?" "That sometimes the most important people in our lives arrive unexpectedly, and that love and dedication are worth more than any amount of money." Peter ran to his parents, radiant with joy. "Dad, Mom, did you see how many kids came today? Aunt Bee said she's going to help all of them get strong like me." "We did, son. And you know what the best part is?" "What?" "That this all started because one special person decided to believe in you when you needed it most." Peter smiled and looked at Beatrice, who was talking to other children's parents. "Dad, can I tell you a secret?" "Of course." "I always knew Aunt Bea was special. From the very first day I felt she was going to change our lives." "And how did you know that?" "Because she looked at me like I was normal, not like I was broken. She looked at me like I could achieve anything." Roberto smiled, realizing that his son, even at such a young age, had understood something that he, an adult, had taken so long to grasp, that a person's true value is not in what they have, but in what they are capable of giving to others. A few months after the center's inauguration, Roberto received an unexpected call. It was from Marcelo Santos, the businessman who had tried to poach Beatrice years before. "Roberto, I need to talk to you." "About what, Marcelo?" "About the therapy center you opened. My grandson has been going there for 3 months." "Oh, really? And how's it going?" "That's why I'm calling. It's extraordinary, Roberto. In 3 months, my grandson has made progress he hadn't made in 2 years of traditional therapy." Roberto smiled. "Beatrice is truly exceptional." "It's more than that. Her whole team is different. They don't treat the kids like patients. They treat them like unique and special human beings. My grandson is happy for the first time since the accident." "I'm happy to hear that. Roberto, I need to apologize to you." "For what?" "For trying to take Beatrice away from you. Years ago. At the time, I just saw her as a qualified employee. I didn't understand that she was part of your family, that there was a much deeper connection. Now I see she was in the right place, with the right people. If I had managed to take her back then, maybe she would never have had the opportunity to develop the way she did with you. Anyway, I wanted to thank you for not letting me make that foolish mistake, and I wanted to congratulate you for seeing her potential before any of us did." After hanging up, Roberto reflected on the conversation. It was curious how things had unfolded. If he had let Beatrice go back then, several lives would have been different. Peter might not have developed the way he did. His marriage to Christina might not have been saved, and dozens of children now being treated at the center would not have had the opportunity to grow with the same care and attention. That afternoon, when Peter came home from school, Roberto was waiting for him in the garden, the same place where everything had started years before. "Dad, you're here early today." "I am. I wanted to talk to you about something. About that day when I came home and saw you helping Beatrice clean the floor." Peter smiled. "I remember that day. You were surprised because you had never seen me doing exercises." "Exact. And do you know what I was thinking at that moment?" "What?" "I was thinking that you were the bravest child I had ever seen. There you were, with all your difficulties, trying to help someone who was taking care of you. But it was normal to help Aunt Bee. She always helped me." "Exactly. And that's what made me realize who you really were. You weren't just a child with limitations. You were a generous, determined, and loving child. Now I know that day changed our family forever, because that's when I learned to really see you, and when I learned to value people like Beatrice." Peter thought for a moment. "Dad, can I tell you something?" "Of course." "That day also changed my life, because it was the first day you looked at me like I was special in a good way. Not special in a sad way. Roberto's eyes welled up. Peter, you've always been special in a good way. It just took me a long time to realize it. It's okay, Dad. The important thing is that now you know. They were silent for a moment, observing the garden where Peter had taken his first steps without crutches, where Beatrice had spent countless hours teaching and encouraging, Dad, Peter said, breaking the silence. Do you think all families have a Beatrice? What do you mean? A person who comes and changes everything for the better, who helps us to be better. Roberto thought about the question. I think not all families are lucky enough to find a Beatrice, Peter, but I think all families have the opportunity to be a Beatrice for someone. We can be for other people what Beatrice was for us. We can believe in others when they don't believe in themselves. We can help others discover what they are capable of. That's what we're doing at Aunt Bea's Center. Exactly. We're helping other families discover what we discovered, that love and dedication can overcome any obstacle. Just then, Beatrice arrived from work as she did every day. Peter ran to her as he always did. Aunt Bea, how was the day at the center? It was wonderful, my warrior. Today, a little girl managed to take her first steps, just like you did a few years ago. Really, she was happy. She was radiant. And do you know what she said? She said she wanted to be strong like Peter Mendonça. Peter blushed with pride. She really said that? She did. You've become an inspiration to many, no? Roberto watched the interaction between Peter and Beatrice, noticing how, even after all these years, they maintained the same special connection from the very first day. Beatrice, Roberto said, can I ask you a question? Of course, Mr. Mendonça. Do you regret anything? Your decision to stay here when you had other opportunities? Beatrice looked at Peter, then at Roberto and smiled. Mr. Mendonça, if I had left, I would have missed the opportunity to see this boy turn into the incredible young man he is today. I would have missed the opportunity to see a family reconnect, and I would have missed the opportunity to fulfill a dream I didn't even know I had. The dream of making a difference in the lives of dozens of children, not just one. The dream of having a career I love, not just a job. The dream of being part of a family that values me for who I am, not just for what I do. Peter hugged Beatrice. Aunt Bea, do you know what the best part of all is? What, my love? Our story isn't over. It's just beginning, because now you're going to help many kids, just like you helped me. And I'll be there to help too, to show them that it's possible to achieve anything. Beatrice looked at Roberto and Christina, who had joined the group in the garden. You know, she said, when I was a child, my mom always said that God puts the right people in our path at the right time. At the time, I didn't really understand what that meant. And now you do? Christina asked. Now I understand that each of us was exactly where we needed to be, when we needed to be. Little Peter needed someone who believed in him. You needed to reconnect as a family. And I needed to discover my purpose in life. And you found it? Peter asked. I did. My warrior. My purpose is to help children and families discover their own strength. And it all started right here in this garden, with a brave little boy who taught me that the biggest miracles happen when we don't give up. Roberto looked around, seeing his family gathered in the garden where it had all begun. Peter, now a healthy and confident boy, and Christina, his wife, who had learned to trust in their love again. And Beatrice, who had gone from being just a housekeeper to becoming a daughter of the heart. You know what I learned from all this? Roberto asked. What, Dad? That sometimes we think we're offering an opportunity to someone when in reality it's that person who is giving us the greatest opportunity of our lives. Opportunity for what? Peter asked. The opportunity to be better, the opportunity to love more. the opportunity to make a difference in the world. Beatrice smiled, her eyes shining with happy tears. Mr. Mendonça, the only thing I wanted when I started working here was to support my family. I never imagined I would gain so much more than that. What did you gain? I gained a second family. I gained a purpose. I gained the chance to see that it's possible to transform lives when we act with love. Peter looked at the three adults around him and smiled. You know what? I think we should do this every day. Do what? Christina asked. Get together here in the garden and remember how lucky we are, because there are a lot of people in the world who don't have what we have. And what do we have? Roberto asked, curious about his son's answer. We have love. We have a family that cares. And we have Aunt Bea, who's the most special person in the world. Roberto hugged his son, feeling immense gratitude for everything that had happened. If someone had told him years ago that a housekeeper would completely change his life, he would have laughed. But now he understood that angels don't always come with wings. Sometimes they come with an apron and a heart full of love. Peter, Roberto said, you're right. Let's do this every day. Let's always remember how lucky we are. And let's always remember, Beatrice added, that every new day is an opportunity to be the difference in someone's life, just as you were in mine. As the sun set over the Mendonça family's garden, four people whose paths had unexpectedly crossed hugged each other, knowing that their lives had been forever transformed by a seemingly casual encounter between a workaholic businessman, a determined housekeeper, and a child who just needed someone to believe in him. And so, what began as a simple early arrival at home turned into the most beautiful lesson about family, love, and the transformative power of seeing the best in people, even when they themselves cannot yet see it. Thank you for watching. May this story inspire your day. Like, share, and stay tuned for more.